V8 engines can fail without warning, raising the risk of a crash.
Ever wondered why brand new Chevy engines have been mysteriously dying on the road? Here's a shocking fact. GM recently recalled nearly 600,000 trucks and SUVs, Cadillac Escalades, Chevrolet Silverados, Suburbans, Tahoes, and GMC Sierras, Yukons, and Yukon XLs from 2021 to 2024, all because their powerful 6.2-liter V8 engines were prone to catastrophic failure. In plain terms, Chevy drivers started reporting that their engines simply stopped running without warning, risking breakdowns or worse. Why? As we'll see, the culprit turned out to be internal manufacturing defects in the engine's rods and crankshaft. Today, we peel back the engine cover and explain exactly what went wrong under the hood, from alarming owner stories to the nitty-gritty engineering details behind these failures.
Let's set the stage. In early 2025, GM quietly asked dealers to stop selling vehicles with the 6.2-liter L87 V8 engine. Soon after, news broke that they were issuing a massive recall. Roughly 597,630 GM trucks and SUVs were affected. That's almost 600,000 vehicles, one of the largest recalls in recent years. CBS News reported that GM is recalling 597,630 of its full-size U.S. trucks and SUVs because the vehicle's V8 engines can fail during use, raising the risk of a crash. Importantly, no warning might precede the failure. Drivers could be cruising along with no check engine light or limp mode, then suddenly lose all power. These affected models all share the same 6.2-liter V8 RPO L87 powertrain. GM identifies the recall as N25-2494000, NHTSA recall 25V274, and says the affected vehicles were built roughly from March 2021 through May 2024. The full list includes 2021 to 2024 Chevrolet Silverado 1500, Tahoe, Suburban, Cadillac Escalade and ESV, GMC Sierra 1500, Yukon and Yukon XL, and similar trucks. In other words, if you own a late-model full-size Chevy, GMC, Cadillac truck or SUV with a 6.2-liter V8, you might have been affected. Dealers are inspecting and repairing these engines free of charge. So what exactly caused all these engines to fail? The official answer lies in the engine's internals, the connecting rods and the crankshaft. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, reports that the connecting rod and/or crankshaft engine components may have manufacturing defects that can lead to engine damage and engine failure. In lay terms, critical moving parts weren't made correctly. GM's teardown analysis pinpoints two main defects. First, rod bearing damage from sediment contamination. During manufacturing, debris or grit apparently got into the oil passages around the connecting rods and crankshaft. This sediment acted like sandpaper on the engine bearings. Over time, or under stress, the bearings wore out or spalled, letting metal fragments damage the connecting rods or crank journals. Second, the crankshafts themselves were out of spec. Some crankshafts didn't meet the precise dimensional or surface finish requirements, meaning they were slightly crooked or rougher than they should be. Even tiny variances in crankshaft precision can cause uneven loads and cracks under high RPMs. Put together, these defects spell trouble. The bearings support the engine's rotating parts, so if a bearing fails, the rod can suddenly slam into the engine block. In fact, one report notes that these faulty bearings were prone to and have experienced failure, resulting in the breaching of the engine block by the connecting rod. In extreme cases, the connecting rod literally punches through the engine case, destroying the engine. That's why a bad bearing isn't just a small nuisance, it can end your engine in a heartbeat. GM's own documents warn that if this happens while you're driving, the vehicle will lose propulsion, increasing the risk of a crash.
Before we get to alarming symptoms and owner reports, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. We're constantly digging into the automotive industry's biggest lies and hidden defects, so you don't waste your hard-earned money on vehicles designed to fail. Hit that subscribe button now and like the video. Fortunately, the defective engines often give some clues before a total failure, but sometimes not. Dealers and news outlets note warning signs like knocking or banging noises, a sudden spike in RPM, or the check engine light coming on. In practice, drivers might hear the engine sounding rough or see an error code before it quits. However, many owners reported no warning at all. One moment they were driving normally, the next, the engine died without notice. For example, in an owner's own words, "I was driving 65 miles per hour down the freeway when the truck suddenly turned off. I made it about another mile and the truck completely turned off and wouldn't turn back on. I was stopped in the middle of the highway with my family in the truck." Yikes. Stories like that are sadly common in NHTSA complaint filings. According to one analysis, GM had received more than 28,000 incident reports about engine failures in these vehicles. Of those, roughly 14,000 were outright power loss events. There were even engine fire allegations, 42 reported cases, and a dozen documented accidents or injuries linked to these sudden failures. In January 2025, NHTSA was already investigating about 877,000 GM vehicles after receiving 39 complaints of such failures. By the time of the recall, the ballpark was hundreds of thousands of trucks, numbers big enough to make every Chevy owner sit up and take notice. The common thread? When a rod bearing or crank fracture fails, the engine tends to violently lose power. Drivers reported the truck shutting off mid-acceleration and dropping to neutral without warning. Because it happened so fast, victims often couldn't even coast safely to the shoulder. It's exactly the kind of failure you never want to experience on a highway. This no-warning failure mode is so concerning that one class action lawsuit summary points out owners who have experienced the defect report no warning signs before sudden and total engine failure. Let's break down the technical bits a bit more. Every V8 engine has 8 pistons connected to the crankshaft via connecting rods. These rods pivot on the crank journal with the help of rod bearings, little shells that allow smooth spinning under huge pressure. If the rod bearings aren't solid, the rod won't spin smoothly and it can jam or break. In our recall case, dirt, sediment in the oil passages gnawed away those rod bearings. Imagine sandblasting the inside of your engine's bearing surfaces. Eventually, they crack or crumble. Meanwhile, the crankshaft itself was not perfectly made. A crankshaft should be a precisely machined piece of steel. Small imperfections can concentrate stress. In these faulty engines, the crank journals were out of specification in size or finish, which means they could flex or vibrate improperly. Under load, those flaws become focal points for cracking. So you have 2 weak spots, rod bearing shells disintegrating and cranks slightly bent or rough. Combine them and boom, rod journal scorches, rod breaks, or crank spins out of true. This aligns with what engineers found. In dismantled engines, they observed rod bearings shredded by grit and crank journals pockmarked or cracked. Once a rod bearing fails, the connecting rod can breach or tear through the engine block, a dramatic failure. After that, the engine is done. It's a scenario any mechanic dreads.
When GM realized the scale of the problem, they moved to protect owners. They issued the recall in late April 2025, notifying affected owners by mail starting June 9, 2025. If your VIN is on the list, GM advises taking your truck in for an immediate engine inspection. Authorized dealers will check the crank and rods. If any defects are found, they will repair or replace the engine at no cost. Even if no obvious damage is detected, the dealer is instructed to perform preventative maintenance. Switch your oil to a higher viscosity grade, fit a new oil fill cap and filter, and insert a supplement into your owner's manual. The idea is to reinforce the engine with a thicker oil film, usually moving from 5W30 to something like OW40 that might buy more time.
It's worth noting that some owners are skeptical of this fix. A class action complaint filed in June 2025 argues that just changing oil isn't a true solution. If the rod bearings and crank were flawed from day one, the engine might still fail eventually. Indeed, many owners report engines failing at highway speeds or with very low mileage, as little as 1,200 miles in some cases. One proposed fix is to rebuild or replace the engine with properly made components. But obviously, that's a big task for GM to swallow for hundreds of thousands of trucks. For now, the recall is GM's official remedy. In any case, if you have one of these vehicles, act now. Check the NHTSA recall lookup or GM's recall site with your VIN to see if you're covered. Schedule a service with your dealer so they can apply the fix or rebuild as needed, all free of charge. Pay attention to any unusual knocks or check engine lights. Better safe than stranded on the highway.
Why did this happen to Chevrolet's engineering? It seems like a breakdown in quality control at the supplier level. GM acknowledges supplier manufacturing and quality issues in the report. Perhaps during pandemic disruptions or model year updates, some bad crankshaft batches slip through. Whatever the case, it's a costly lesson. Even established engine designs can fail if manufacturing slips. For Chevy enthusiasts, this is a tough reality check. GM's 6.2-liter truck V8 is a workhorse, and it's disheartening to see such an issue. On the bright side, GM is taking responsibility with a wide recall and free repairs. Other Chevy engines, like the ubiquitous 5.3-liter V8, are not included in this recall, so they should remain safe for now. And looking ahead, GM's next-gen small block V8s, coming around 2027, will hopefully learn from this mistake. In the meantime, keep those trucks maintained, use the correct oil, and stay alert to any engine warning signs. If you own one of these trucks or SUVs, listen carefully. Don't treat this like another headline you'll read later. This is the kind of problem that turns a blue sky commute into a highway nightmare. Pause the video, grab your VIN, and check GM's recall lookup or call your dealer right now. If your vehicle is listed, schedule the inspection. And if you felt a knock, heard a sudden stutter, or had your engine die even once, tell them exactly that. Don't let "it didn't warn me" become your story. Then do two more things for every driver you care about. Share this video with anyone who owns a late model Chevy, Silverado, Tahoe, Suburban, Yukon, or Escalade. And drop a comment below with your model year and mileage. The data helps other owners and builds pressure for fixes. If you've got a mechanic's tip or a near-miss story, tell it. We read every one. Subscribe, hit the bell, and join our inspections community. Stay safe out there and keep an ear open for those engine knocks.